Has your business gone up since you've been on the show?
It's definitely improved business. I mean, it's nice to not have to advertise because the show does it for you.
In April 2021, Jarrod Schulz walked into a familiar bar in Orange County, California, where he unexpectedly encountered his former partner, Brandi Passante, who was enjoying an evening with her friends. What began as a tense exchange quickly escalated into a heated argument that spiraled out of control. The confrontation turned physical, and according to the subsequent police report, Jarrod forcefully pushed Brandy on 2 separate occasions. This single, fleeting moment of aggression proved to be catastrophic, setting in motion a chain of events that would completely demolish the life and career he had painstakingly built over the course of 2 decades. How could a man who had already served a 16-month prison sentence for drug-related felonies, who had successfully reinvented himself, built a family, and achieved international fame on television, lose everything in a single night? The answer is not found in that one burst of anger, but is rooted in a much more painful and complex history than anyone could imagine. This is not simply a story about a bad night. It is the lifelong tragedy of Jarrod Schulz, a narrative about a man who came agonizingly close to achieving true redemption, only to be dragged back down by the very demons he thought he had escaped. Join us as we explore the profound tragedy of Jarrod Schulz's life, the prison years that shaped everything. The origins of Jarrod's tragic downfall began long before the cameras of Storage Wars ever started rolling. In the late 1990s, Jarrod Schulz, then a young man of about 20, was caught in a cycle of making profoundly poor decisions that would set the course for the rest of his life. His troubles with the law became serious on January 27, 1997, when he was arrested by police. The charge was significant: felony possession of methamphetamine, a dangerous and highly addictive substance. This was not his first encounter with law enforcement regarding illegal drugs, but this particular arrest marked a serious escalation in his criminal behavior. Facing a charge that could have irrevocably damaged his future, Jarrod was initially shown a degree of leniency by the court. He was handed a sentence of just 60 days in county jail, to be followed by a period of probation. It was a second chance, an opportunity to correct his path. Jarrod pleaded guilty and served his 2-month sentence, hoping to leave his past behind and start anew. However, that precious second chance was squandered with astonishing speed. Merely 1 week after his release from jail, Jarrod found himself in handcuffs once again. This time, the charges were even more severe, as he was arrested for driving under the influence, DUI, while also being in possession of a controlled substance. The presiding judge saw this not as an isolated mistake, but as a continuation of a dangerous pattern of behavior, indicating that Jarrod had failed to learn any lessons from his prior conviction. The patience of the legal system had run out. Consequently, he was sentenced to a much harsher term of 16 months in a California state prison. State prison was an entirely different and far more brutal world than the county jail he had briefly experienced. Jarrod was now incarcerated alongside hardened criminals, including murderers and violent offenders. According to a source close to his family, this harsh and unforgiving environment served as a terrifying wake-up call. He was confronted with a stark vision of his potential future, realizing that if he did not fundamentally change, he would become just like the men surrounding him. Those 16 months behind bars instilled in him a powerful resolve to turn his life around. Yet, his time in prison also left him with 2 devastating legacies that would continue to haunt him for years to come. The first was a permanent felony record, a brand that would follow him forever. The second, and arguably more destructive, was an ingrained habit of responding to stress and conflict with aggression and violence. This was a survival mechanism learned within the hypermasculine and dangerous prison environment, a deeply rooted behavioral pattern that would lie dormant for years before re-emerging at the worst possible moment. A second chance, named Brandy. Upon his release from prison around 1999, a 21-year-old Jarrod faced a daunting future with a criminal record and few prospects, but he was armed with a newfound determination. It was during this fragile period that life offered him a genuine second chance, and that chance came in the form of a woman named Brandi Passante. Jarrod managed to secure legitimate employment as a sales manager for a carpet cleaning company in Tustin, California. It was there that he met Brandy, a new employee who was smart, driven, and, most importantly, willing to look past his criminal history. She saw the man who was determined to change, not the ex-convict defined by his mistakes. Brandy became his anchor, providing the stability and support he desperately needed. Their professional relationship soon blossomed into a personal one, and together they began to build a life. Brandy became his lifeline, pulling him away from the destructive path he had been on. Their family grew with the birth of their son, Cameron, in 2003, followed by their daughter, Peyton, in 2005. Having a family to provide for gave Jarrod an even greater motivation to stay on the straight and narrow path he had chosen. He channeled his ambition into entrepreneurship, launching his own mortgage business during the booming American housing market of the mid-2000s. For a time, the business was a great success, affording his family a comfortable and stable lifestyle. It seemed as though Jarrod had truly transformed himself into a responsible businessman and family man. However, this period of prosperity was short-lived. The global financial crisis of 2008 to 2009 hit the housing market with devastating force, and Jarrod's mortgage business collapsed, leaving him financially ruined. This failure was more than just a monetary loss. It was a profound psychological blow that threatened his very identity as a reformed man. Once again, he was faced with the specter of failure. It was during this desperate time that one of his aunts suggested a peculiar business venture: attending auctions for abandoned storage lockers. It was a high-risk, high-reward world, but it offered a new direction. This seemingly random suggestion not only provided Jarrod with a new business idea, but also unknowingly set him on the path that would lead him to global fame and the television show Storage Wars. The young guns arrive. The suggestion from his aunt proved to be a life-altering turning point. Jarrod and Brandy dove headfirst into the competitive world of storage auctions, and their dynamic, high-energy approach quickly caught the eye of television producers who were casting for a new reality show. On December 1st, 2010, Storage Wars premiered on the A&E network, and Jarrod Schulz and Brandi Passante were instantly propelled into the spotlight. Known collectively as the Young Guns, they brought a fresh, relatable energy to the show that resonated with audiences worldwide. Viewers were drawn to their authentic, often scrappy, approach to bidding, and the entertaining chemistry of their bickering yet affectionate relationship. Fame arrived swiftly and with great intensity. Jarrod and Brandy became the breakout stars of the series, and their income skyrocketed, with reports suggesting they earned as much as $30,000 per episode. Their popularity was so immense that in 2014, A&E launched a spin-off series dedicated entirely to them, titled Brandy and Jarrod, Married to the Job. This show delved deeper into their personal lives and business ventures, further cementing their status as reality television royalty. To capitalize on their fame, they opened a second-hand store called Now and Then in Orange, California, where they sold the treasures they unearthed from the storage lockers they won. The store was frequently featured on Storage Wars, giving them an invaluable and continuous stream of free advertising. Bolstered by their television success, they expanded their retail operation by opening a second location in Long Beach in 2013. However, beneath the surface of their public success, a troubling pattern was beginning to emerge. The Long Beach store struggled to find its footing and was forced to close its doors just 1 year later, in 2014. By 2016, their flagship store in Orange had also ceased operations. This sequence of events was eerily reminiscent of the failure of his mortgage business years earlier. It revealed a critical flaw. Even with the immense advantage of television fame and free marketing, Jarrod's business ventures ultimately failed. He had successfully changed his circumstances, but a fundamental inability to sustain long-term success suggested that something deeper within him remained unchanged. The relationship that carried everything. For nearly 2 decades, Brandi Passante was much more than Jarrod's girlfriend. She was the very foundation upon which he had built his entire reformed life. The eventual collapse of their relationship would prove to be the final fatal blow to the world he had constructed. Brandy was his partner in every sense of the word. She was the mother of his children, his business associate, and his co-star on television. She was the steadying force that kept his life from drifting back into the chaos of his past. From the difficult days after his release from prison to the dizzying heights of international fame, Brandy was the one constant in his life. Their relationship, with all its on-screen arguments and underlying affection, was the central pillar supporting the public persona and professional success of the Young Guns. When Storage Wars returned for its 13th season in April 2021 after a hiatus, viewers were met with a shocking revelation. In the season premiere, Brandy calmly but firmly stated, "I'm not with Jarrod anymore." The even more surprising truth was that they had actually separated in the fall of 2018. For more than 2 years, they had maintained a professional facade, continuing to film together and present a united front for the show, all while living separate lives. Just days after this on-air admission, the private turmoil erupted into a public tragedy. On the night of April 30th, 2021, Jarrod went to a bar in Orange County, where he encountered Brandy with a group of friends. An argument ensued, which quickly escalated. According to the police report filed later, the verbal dispute turned physical when Jarrod yelled at Brandy and pushed her twice. Brandy demanded that he leave the establishment, but he refused to comply. Someone at the bar called the police, but Jarrod had already left the scene before they arrived. The legal consequences were swift. In May 2021, based on Brandy's testimony and other evidence, the Orange County District Attorney's Office formally charged Jarrod Schulz with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. Through his legal representation, Jarrod denied that he had made any physical contact with Brandy. While the legal process unfolded, Brandy made a powerful and suggestive statement on her Instagram account. She posted a photo of a new tattoo on her finger that read, "Free," accompanied by a caption that spoke of escaping a very difficult situation and her gratitude for a life without fear. This post was widely interpreted as an allusion to a longer-term pattern of controlling or abusive behavior, suggesting that the incident at the bar was not an isolated event, but the culmination of a long and painful ordeal. The career that disappeared overnight. The violent altercation in the bar that night set off a destructive shockwave that completely obliterated the career Jarrod had spent 20 years building. The A&E network, which produced Storage Wars, took the domestic violence allegations very seriously. The network immediately launched an internal investigation into the incident. While Jarrod still appeared in a few episodes of Season 13, As they had been filmed prior to the event, those would be his final appearances. Beginning with season 14, Jarrod Schulz was completely removed from the show he had helped make a global phenomenon. This was a devastating and decisive blow. Jarrod didn't just lose a television show, he lost his entire public identity. The persona of the lovable, risk-taking young gun was shattered, replaced by the grim reality of a man accused of domestic violence. His substantial income from television vanished, and his public image was left in ruins. His Instagram account fell silent after a final post in 2021, and for all intents and purposes, Jarrod Schulz disappeared from the public eye. Today, at the age of 48, Jarrod leads a much quieter and more private life. He is the owner and operator of the Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California, a business he acquired in April 2019, before the scandal erupted. He is in a new relationship with Rochelle Beckman, who works as a bartender at his establishment. His 2 children with Brandy, Cameron, and Peyton are now young adults in their early 20s. The man who was once a celebrated reality television star has transitioned into the life of a local bar owner, far removed from the glare of the media and the fame he once commanded. The tragedy of almost. To truly comprehend the depth of Jarrod Schulz's story, one must look beyond the individual events and see the overarching tragedy. The real tragedy is not that he went to prison as a young man. It is that he came so incredibly close to achieving a complete and lasting redemption. His personal tragedy is defined not by his failures, but by how near he came to a triumphant success story. He had made an astonishingly long and difficult climb from the absolute bottom. Consider the milestones he had successfully passed. He went from being a convicted felon to a devoted family man. He transformed himself from a man with no prospects into a successful entrepreneur and a famous television personality. He had achieved fame, wealth, and the love of his family. His life had all the makings of a classic American comeback story, a tale of atonement and second chances. The fundamental problem was that while Jarrod managed to dramatically change his external circumstances, his career, his finances, his public status, he failed to change his internal self. The incident at the bar in 2021 was not an aberration. It was the violent eruption of deep-seated issues that had never been properly addressed. The aggressive coping mechanisms he learned in prison to deal with conflict were still present, lurking beneath the surface, ready to explode under pressure. When faced with the emotional stress of his relationship with Brandy ending and his public image fracturing, he reverted to the most primitive, violent reactions he knew. Furthermore, the immense psychological burden of constantly having to prove that he was a changed man created a pressure cooker environment. And when that pressure became too intense, the old Jarrod re-emerged with destructive force. The bitter lesson from Jarrod's life lies in the crucial difference between appearing to have changed and actually changing. On the surface, he was a resounding success, but internally, he remained the same insecure and volatile 20-year-old boy who had never truly learned how to conquer his own inner demons. The tragic story of Jarrod Schulz serves as a powerful and sobering reminder that the past is never truly gone. At 48 years old, he is acutely aware of what he has lost, and, most painfully, why he lost it. While he still has time to rebuild his personal life, his history of repeated business failures and uncontrolled anger reveals a troubling pattern that threatens to repeat itself. His story transcends the simple narrative of a fallen reality TV star. It offers a universal lesson. To genuinely escape one's past, changing external circumstances is not enough. The most critical change must happen internally, at the most fundamental level of one's character. Without that deep internal transformation, the past will always find a way to return, often at the most inopportune moments, to destroy everything you have worked so hard to build. What do you think could have saved Jarrod from himself?